for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Yeah. Today's Thursday. It's Thursday, May 21st, 2026. Allergies. Yeah. It was a Claritin type of day today. And sneeze coming on. But anyway, we'll get through it. All right. Let's do this, man. Today's my Thursday. Today's my Friday. It's your Thursday. This week on Faded Black, Monday night, Paul Hynek was here. DMT and ET Contact. Tuesday night, Dr. Doug Bittner was with us, UFO and UAP Science. Last night, Bill and Jackie Kasulis, our paranormal world. And continuing and closing out the week today, our good friend James Keenan is here. Skinwalker Ranch launched the season premiere, the latest season of Skinwalker Ranch a couple of nights ago. We'll be talking about that, Blind Frog Ranch, and all of his research. My next event coming up is Contact in the Desert. It's coming up next week, May 28th through June 1st, and contactinthedesert.com. If you haven't yet, go and get your tickets and make that happen. All right. Before I bring James in, a couple of things. Pretty crazy news today. Kyle Busch, one of the greatest drivers in NASCAR history, has died at the age of 41. Shocking news in the sports world and certainly in the racing world. One of the greatest drivers in NASCAR history. I think he was ninth in all-time wins. Ninth, okay, in all-time wins. Raced last weekend and was scheduled to race this weekend and got sick and died. And that's it. We don't know what the illness was. They're calling it a severe illness, but just tragic. I was just talking to James about this right before the show, and you just never know when your last day is here. You just don't know. And the other thing is, we're talking about Kyle Busch, right? And all of the medical treatment in the world sometimes isn't good enough. And that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Kyle Busch has died at the age of 41. And one other thing, I've got the alerts happening on my phone right now. I just announced this in the chat. We have another fire, and this one is here in my neighborhood. And it's right now, it's close to 400 acres, 0% containment. It's called the Alta Fire. Today, I rode my Harley out there, not because of the fire. It's on one of my routes that I take, and I did that today. I didn't see anything, and that's crazy, and it's that close to me. Yeah, it's right there on the 138, and okay, so I've got the alerts going on my phone. I'm checking direction and everything else, but I'm just letting everybody know that it's right there. If you look up Alta Fire and you want to see where it's at, and you can see Palmdale and Lancaster, it's right on top of me. So right before the show, I just stepped outside and I can see it. Yep, I can see it. It's right there. And that part where it's at, although it's the desert, it's rolling hills, lots of dried vegetation, and there's also a national park out there that is full of very precious Joshua trees, and that's where it's at. And so we'll see what happens. Also, right there is Willow Springs Raceway. Yeah, it's crazy. It's I can see it. All right. Not that anything's going to happen tonight during the show. Well, you just never know. But anyway, I'm just letting all of you know. It's what we deal with every year here in Southern California. It's fire season, and there we go. There's a second fire right next to it, by the way, burning at 50 acres, and it's just a mile away. So, okay. All right. There you go. That's all the latest updates. I don't like starting the show with that kind of news, but it's a public service announcement. All right. So let's move on. James Keenan is here. He's one of my favorite researchers, and he's an author and a field investigator. He's out there getting stuff done. He's always looking at ancient history. Of course, archaeology, what's going on underneath your feet. And of course, NHI, right? That as well. And of course, Skinwalker Ranch and Blind Frog Ranch are two of his focused areas. And all of the other indigenous stuff that's going on in this country. I'm talking about petroglyphs and megalithic structures and giants and all of that. Before that, he was a cop. I'm going to leave that right there. He's laughing. Oh man, welcome back, James.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
Here's the thing. How many times have I said to you, you look like a Fed? You look like a cop. You just do. Were you a good cop?
I would hope so.
No, that's not what I mean. Well, no, that is what I mean. I mean, you pull somebody over. Were you inclined to cut somebody some slack, or were you just looking to write tickets?
Yeah, no, it just depended on the situation. There were a lot of people I let off with a warning, or, it just didn't seem like it was necessary. And sure, you have that call. You have that authority to do that, just so long that they understood what they did was wrong.
I got pulled over in Memphis, long hair, driving my mom's car, drunk, coming home at 3:00 in the morning from a club that I worked at. And I get pulled over. James, with this was in Memphis, with an expired license from Indiana, right? I don't even have a driver's license. I'm drunk. And another car, so I got two cars behind me. This cop comes up and goes, "Okay, man, your parents' house is a couple blocks away. Follow me, and we're gonna have another car behind you, and let's just get you home."
Yep, I've done it before.
Yeah. And the next day, I'm going out to the mailbox. This is at my parents' house to get the paper. Okay, I'm wearing a robe, my Garfield slippers, my long hair. And he drove by. He drove by at like 7 a.m. and gave me one of these, and kept on going. That was all right. I ended up seeing that guy a bunch of times after that, and we waved. He could have really tipped over my life, right?
Sure.
But he didn't. So, all right. Do you ever, with your training in law enforcement, do you apply that to how you run your field investigations? Does that, right?
All the time. It's a mixture of, what you learned at the university. I have that degree in interdisciplinary studies. So it was anthropology, archaeology, ancient history. And then with the civil and criminal investigation, I've gone through 2 academies, one in Texas, one in California. So you apply both. And I just got fed up with civil and criminal investigation. And, now I do paranormal, ancient history, UAP. I think it's all mixed together, and you still use that same type of theory no matter what it is. And boots on the ground is the only way to really, I mean, there's a lot of book investigation and reading in the libraries or at certain locations in that regards, but you could do that all day and you just can't get what you do boots on the ground in a specific location, just being out there and seeing what's going on.
Do you have a built-in lie detector?
It used to be better. I'm losing. As time goes by, I trust people more and more. I don't know if that's good or bad. But
I'm the opposite. I'm the opposite, man. I'm going less and less. I don't know if I'm just, some just grumpy old man now. Because I used to, oh, really? Tell me more. And I'm still like that. I had that childlike curiosity, but with your background and in this world that we find ourselves in, you and I, you have to have a BS meter.
Yeah, it is. But I think the one thing that's really helped is the fact that when you're discussing, paranormal and investigating that, there's just a fine line between what's real, what's not real, what's right, what's wrong, or what's normal, what's unnormal. And that ability to maybe push it forward, especially when somebody's telling you a story, you want to believe the people, or if you see an artifact, you want to believe it's real. But how I was with the Abuelos de Jalisco artifacts, the ancient alien artifacts out of Mexico. I got so into it because I was seeing all these poor people spend thousands of dollars buying these that I went down to Mexico and eventually tracked the original artists that created these back in the 1950s, and where all the original ones are stored in a museum in Mexico City. And it's just a matter of, sometimes you just want to help people out and try to push the right reality to them. A lot of them don't want to believe it, but you get that feeling sometimes, like you said. But I had it better 20 years ago.
Yeah, that is so funny. And here's the other thing. If you go and you've seen stuff, right? And you turn around, I'm going to paraphrase. I'm just going to put words in your mouth. But let's just say James Keenan is telling about an experience to somebody, and you go, okay, so the lights are in the sky, the craft came down, we looked at it, it appeared out of nowhere, it moved a few feet, and then shot off into the sky and was gone. Somebody listening to that's going to go, you know what? Bullshit, right? Well, but you saw it. And I do the same thing. When I see something, James, and I'm telling the story, I'm listening to myself going, do you know what you sound like? But you want it's the experience. You want to share the experience, and then you want people to trust that that's what happened. Well, I want to give other people that same respect. I want to listen to their story, because mine are just as crazy. Yours are just as crazy.
Sure.
It's just, where do you draw the line? And these days with ufology, it's gotten a little out of control. It's never been like this before. Social media is a big part of that too, as well. But now there's so much information out there. How do you, where does the discernment come into play? How do you do that? I don't know.
Well, and with AI, you can't believe anything any longer because you can create whatever the hell you want and it looks real.
That one of my producers, he's really talented. His name's Chris. He loves his AI. I don't mess with it. Right. I leave it to the kids. Right? Let them go and do it. But he creates videos and images, and they're really fun, and they're obviously not real. He did this video of me sitting there, and I got the shock looked on my face, and I turn around and I'm running. This flying saucer comes down to the street. I stop, turn around, and run back and run away from it. Okay, dude, it's me.
It's you.
Right? It's me. It's crazy. Now, it's obviously not real, but that was made to entertain. It wasn't made to convince somebody of something else. You know,
Right.
and that's what we have to do today, don't we? On anything. It's nuts. It's nuts. So Skinwalker did their season premiere 2 nights ago. Does it surprise you? Let's talk about Skinwalker first, and then we'll move on to so many other things. Does it surprise you the success of that show?
Oh, not at all. I mean, you got to think so many people are interested in the subject matter of paranormal or this high strangeness, this phenomena that's taking place. A lot of people have had some type of run-in with it. And the fact of the matter is, whether you believe it or not, this location is full of strange phenomena. And it's not a phenomenon, it's multiple phenomena. And then you have to even look at the fact that the OSAP program, you know, the Advanced Aerospace Weapons Application program, took place there, was funded by United States government money. And the fact that just that occurred there has to make people wonder, you know, even if it wasn't on high strangeness or the paranormal, what was so important of that location? Because it's not out in the middle of nowhere. It's surrounded by people that live on all sides of the ranch. So you're not doing things secretively, which you could do on a military base. So why did it have to occur there? And it's just so interesting that, especially recently with all this new development coming out from the federal government, you know, what's taking place, what's being seen, and whether that's off-world, interdimensional, or other countries in our nation with this technology, or with non-human intelligence, it's happening. And so much of it is located there, easy to study. And it doesn't stick to the boundaries. You know, there's Space Wolf Research, which is just south of the Skinwalker Ranch border. You know, the phenomena doesn't know boundaries. A lot of stuff occurs there. It occurs on the Mesa. It occurs all through the Uinta Basin and in the Uinta Mountains, especially up Blind Frog Ranch as well.
I've gotten to know most of the cast of Skinwalker, as you know. And I have to say that when you look at most of them, they're friends from childhood that didn't, you know what I mean? Didn't have any interest in any of this stuff. And now they find themselves not only in the middle of this, the TV show and the ranch and stuff, but experiencing things that weren't part of their life or their childhood and how they grew up and how their attitude has changed. And I have to say, I know them, as do you, and they're just people that grew up in the area, you know, and they're still neighbors, right? To this day, they live on the same street, right?
A couple of them do, yeah.
Yeah. And that's a very fascinating thing for me. It's about background, character, and who they are and how their life has changed. And that it's pretty obvious to me when you sit down and speak with them.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, what's interesting too is, unfortunately, you don't get to see everything that's recorded or everything that occurs while the cameras are going. And sometimes I scratch my head and wonder why the production company chooses some things and not others to show. And it would be even that much more, data points for people to see, to let them make a decision if what they're seeing or what's being brought to them through the television series, is reality, or at least a reality that we're starting to finally recognize. This stuff may be actually going around us all the time, and we're just not visually and audibly able to see it.
Right.
When you think the electromagnetic spectrum that we use as humans is 35 millionth of a percent, you have 99.9999999%. It's that narrow.
Yes.
And now the technology is helping us be able to see and hear and collect data that we couldn't even just 10 years ago.
Have you changed in the same way? Did you go from one side of the fence to the other?
So I've had paranormal encounters in the past that have always made me interested in the topic. And even then, it seemed so paranormal, but I still wanted to try to find a reasonable explanation for it. The more time you spend on the Uinta Basin, the more of a believer you come, because you just come into contact with so much different phenomena occurring, that it's just a smorgasbord of everything people could imagine. You have these paranormal shows, you have Bigfoot shows, you have UFO, UAP shows, but all this occurs in the Uinta Basin within a pretty condensed location. And you're getting to see and participate in all of it all at one time. Sometimes it's actually overwhelming. There's been instances, especially at night, where it almost seems like something extremely negative is affecting you, whether it's physical or physiological. I think everybody that's been on the ranch has experienced something to that nature at some point in time.
I've asked everybody on the show this question. I'm sure I've asked you before, but do you have a favorite spot on the ranch?
Oh, absolutely. It's the triangle.
That's what everybody says.
100%. It's one of my 4 collected data points of this transient energy running up and down. That's spot number 3. And I mean, look, I was there on the show in season 2. I've been there over the years multiple times, and they just keep finding more and more at the triangle above and below ground. And it matches a lot of data points that have been collected through history, which I find very interesting. And there's just so much material that it's very, very difficult to be able to share that with the public, because there's just too much now.
I remember talking to the cast, everybody at the same time, and I asked him that very question: how much data is there? And they all said the same thing: there's too much.
Too much.
There's too much. There's too much. It's impossible. I mean, it's just terabytes. It's not only the video, because we have so many cameras that are running, nearly 24 hours a day. We have that, but it's all the sensor data that we have, and the ground penetrating data that we have, the drone data that we have. It's just piling up, and it's just impossible to go through. I don't know how Eric copes with it, and it seems, I'm being very serious.
Yeah.
He's got to superficially look at everything at the top layer and then like pick and choose his battles.
I think
where's he going to go deep?
He lives there, and I don't think he sleeps. I think he takes cat naps on the sofa, and then he's back to work. I don't think the man ever sleeps. So
I just don't know how they deal with it. It's just a ton and a ton of data. Maybe AI can come into play. I hate to say that. I hate to say that,
right.
But maybe that can, help compile and assist data points and connecting the dots. You have to compile, you have to put stuff in tables, and doing it old school. Oof,
It's too much.
It's hundreds of years.
Yeah, I tell you what, AI in the last 6 months has advanced my research by a decade. What I was having trouble with cataloging and categorizing and putting into the right piles is now instant. It takes 6 seconds. And my research has advanced so much in the last 6 months, especially in the last couple of weeks with that huge data drop on UAP from the government. Oh man, it's just, I've been able to put that in with all this past historical data, and the findings are insane. When I'm at Contact in the Desert, it's going to be the first time that I'm bringing out some extremely interesting ancient data that matches almost identically to a couple of the videos that were released a week or two ago. And when you see it, you're going to be like, holy crap.
Give me a taste. What are you talking about?
Sure. So they released one video that has this UAP on it that is like that 8-point star that's moving around, and it's in the thermal electromagnetic spectrum that they're showing it at. Well, that data was collected by the Chumash in Central and Southern California at multiple locations, and these items look identical. What's interesting is because it was in thermal, it makes me wonder, when you look at the rest of the rock art around this abstract feature, that if there was some type of event occurring that could have brought that same spectrum to where they see it, or, and this is really important lately, I don't know how familiar you are with the different types of DMT, but I'm talking about
I'm very familiar.
Okay. The fact that maybe what we are seeing when we're in a DMT state, or when we're in a Datura state like the Chumash used, that we are seeing things in our brain's capacity that only allows us to see it when everything else is shut down. And that data is already embedded in us, whether that's placed there or it's this connectivity throughout the universe. These data points match up exactly with what is now being seen in other parts of the electromagnetic spectrum that we can't visually see. And it's a huge part now of my research as to what it may not have been a physical event as much as it was and I hate to use this word but it's the only way to really express what I'm saying, is like a spiritual or a religious or an event that was created by some type of narcotic. And all that's doing is assisting us with accessing parts of our brain that can't be used any other way, because our brains are set up to be very narrow in this 3D world to protect us from what we come into contact with that we need to survive in this body. So the research is now showing that, and here's another, I know you asked for another one, and I'm going to give this. In 2003, it shows that at the Vandenberg Air Force Base, before it became the Space Force Base, this large, as big as a football field, red square went across and stopped above the missile launch area. And the Boeing contractors, along with the military police, watched this event. And then this red square darted off toward the Los Padres National Forest. Well, what I'm doing is I'm tracking locations that in the petroglyphs and pictographs show this same feature. And what I surmise from all this is that there is a site somewhere north of Santa Barbara, east of Lompoc, that is just like Skinwalker Ranch, or specific sites in the Sedona area like Bradshaw Ranch, things of that nature. So I'm looking for this site that I know is there. And it's just a matter of locating it now with this new data that's coming in.
Have you been to the Grapevine Petroglyphs?
Yeah, I went with you.
Oh, that's right.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Hey, in my defense, there was 30 or 40 of
There
my
were a lot of
friends
us.
that were there. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And they were all my friends. I invited everybody up, right? That in my defense. But the other part was I didn't expect all of that. My mind, I forgot about everybody that was there. You know what I mean?
Sure.
When we went in and started, my mind was so blown. I spent 3 months after that investigating those petroglyphs, and this is what's crazy. This is why I'm asking. Man, I'm so sorry. It was a crazy night, man.
Yeah,
Do you
look what we
remember
saw in the air, up in the sky?
Remember that frigging flaming asteroid? Holy crap. Okay, everybody, I want you to listen. I'm so glad you're here to back up my bullshit. Okay? Which is
it's not BS.
It's not BS. We're all standing in this little parking area, having our little kumbaya moment, and we're looking. We had some night vision with us and stuff, and we're all looking, and all of a sudden, this giant low too, dude. It was low. It wasn't high. Flaming rock, just right over our head. And you remember?
Sure.
That sound. Holy mackerel! And it was big. It was big. It was orange. You remember? It was orange. The rock was glowing, but the flames were blue.
Yeah,
that's what I remember. Is that what you remember?
I remember seeing like a reddish orange. But what's interesting too, and I think I called it out, is at that location you see a lot of this cosmology of carvings that look just like what we saw that night on some of the main centralized rock art right in the center of the park.
Hold on for a second. I think somebody's in the chat. Hold on, Ken. I'm doing this. Man, I can't even spell. Were you there too? I think so. I think Ken was with us. It was so much fun. But the other thing was we were all looking up when it happened.
Right.
It wasn't like somebody said, "Oh, check that out." No, we were all just happened to be looking up, and it happened. Yes, Ken. Yes. Yeah, he was there. That was just amazing. Now, back to those petroglyphs. This is why I'm bringing that up. Is what I found out is that there is no origin to those petroglyphs. Nobody knows anything. All of the research on it. Yeah, Ken was there. A couple of universities went out there and checked it out. They interviewed and spoke with the Mojave Indians that are indigenous to that area. They all said, no, they were here when we got here. So the dating on those petroglyphs is somewhere between 2 and 3 and 4,000 years old, going back to around 2000 BC. They're guessing. Very difficult to date any of it. But can you use AI on those glyphs and possibly get some other information from other locations and maybe find out something else about them?
Sure. Yeah, you can match up, things like if they're trapezoidal features, if they're anthropomorphic, zoomorphic, or abstract features that look like other locations. That's easy for the AI now to do. And you made a great point that I'll discuss too next week during the presentation, is the fact that even just for example, look at the Chumash. So we call these Chumash pictographs. amazing paintings that have lasted a very long time, anywhere from 600 years to thousands of years. But these older paintings are the ones that are just incredible. And you have to ask yourself, were they really Chumash that made them? Or was it a different cultural group that happened to be in the area before? They may be the ancestors of and related to them some way. But you keep finding that, like the Fremont petroglyphs in northeastern Utah that are around Skinwalker Ranch and Blind Frog Ranch. We call it Fremont, but we really don't know who the hell they were. That's just from a cultural site in Fremont that it gets its name. So you also may have a mix of cultures and it's incorrectly named after one. And that's why the people of great stature, these giants that were in the desert Southwest, you see them all over the Fremont petroglyphs, especially around both ranches. And it was just a different cultural group. It wasn't the Fremont. They looked to have been fighting one another, and they were headhunters, possibly cannibalistic, like the Mexica, the Aztec. And you don't know. And the information that we have gathered comes from the 19th century, when these indigenous people were already decimated by European culture. So their guess is almost as good as our guess today.
Right.
It's like saying, hey, James Keenan, tell me what the Irish were like 2,000, 3,000 years ago. And I don't know. I can tell you what James Keenan, the Irishman in Arizona, is like today, but not what my great ancestors were like.
Yeah, I remember as we were standing there, because there's over 700 petroglyphs. That's the largest collection of petroglyphs in North America at Grapevine. And there's 700 on both sides. Anyway, I remember just looking at it. Everything was flowing like in one. It was an origin story of some kind. They were trying to tell us something. There's a lot there. Well, you remember when we crossed over and we went up and found that cave, right, on the other side, and
on
we
the
went
right
into
side.
that cave.
Yeah.
And at the entrance to that cave were 3 petroglyphs that were different from everything else. One was definitely DNA. That was a double helix. Remember that giant double helix?
Yeah,
and then
pictures of it.
Yeah, me too. I shot a lot of video. And then on the rock next to it was like the ant dude with the helmet and the antennas on his head. That was pretty crazy. And then next to him it looked like a single cell, like a cell with the mitochondria in the middle of it. And these are 3 things that you don't see in nature. Everything else was kind of nature bound, right? You can, so they're drawing stuff that you can find in nature, but there's no double helix in nature. What were they? That was crazy. Anyway, I wanted to ask you about this. You remember when we entered the cave and that one petroglyph that was way, way high up on the wall, like 20 feet up, of the dude standing on water with his hands out, and he had a ball in one hand, he had a cross in the other hand. Let me change cameras. He was standing like this, but he was standing on water. Remember that? It was like, what does that mean? When you saw that petroglyph of the guy standing on the water with his hands, he had a cross in one hand, he had a ball in the other, a planet, the sun, I don't know, the moon, and a cross. That was pretty bizarre. I still go back and look at that picture because he's obviously standing on water. This is in the middle of the desert, right? It's the Mojave Desert. He's on water and he's holding these things, and it's a stick figure. What do you think that represents?
Well, I mean, the Colorado River is close, so maybe something to do with that. But you have to remember that a majority of this is part of their supernatural or religious belief system. So in reality, it's very subjective what we see of it, unless we're able to start collecting same type of abstract features within a same type of specific area. And then we start realizing that they were seeing these items or objects or artifacts more often. But other than that, it's so subjective. only the rock artist who created it really knows what it is. And even the indigenous people, if they tell you, well, this is what it is, remember that what things are back then may be completely different to what things are today, even for the same indigenous culture. Like I said, time changes, and so does ideas, or what a feature, whether it be abstract, anthropomorphic, what it stands for or represents. But I mean, if it was after European contact, you could have said it might have been a Jesus figure, possibly, that they were trying to share the religion with them.
There was a definite, I'm so glad you brought that up. When I first saw it, I thought it was Jesus. That's exactly what popped in my head.
Right.
He's standing like this, a cross in one hand. That was pretty bizarre. And this globe, this ball in the other hand. But it was how he was standing. He was standing like this, and he's walking on water.
Wow.
I was like, it's Jesus. I think we mentioned it, all of us, but yeah, that popped in my head. It definitely felt Christ-like.
Yeah, I mean, the representations through time of these important religious individuals or these medicine man cults, they could represent the same individual, the same being, the same access to inner dimensions, or it could be a like type quality feature that these type of individuals have through time. So, I mean, the possibility is endless until you're actually able to match something that you see in that rock art to something that you've seen in reality. And that's when it becomes interesting.
Do you remember when we were all climbing up the hill on the left side as you entered into there, listening to everybody in the dark? Because we all had, I had a flashlight.
Flashlights.
Yeah. And check this out. Look at this over here.
Yeah, they were everywhere.
They were everywhere. God, that was so much fun. Oh, geez, man. I felt like we discovered something for the first time. Well, we did personally, but it was just amazing. And for weeks after that, I just thought about that area, how many and how long, how many people, how many artists, and for how long were creating that stuff that is eternal, right? It's still around thousands of years later. There must have been an army of artisans just telling their story, right? Sitting there drawing and painting and preserving this. It was so important to them that they got it done. And it's a massive site. This is not anything small. And were you surprised that it was unprotected?
Oh,
it's just that anybody can go in.
Outside of California, that's almost all these locations. Really, the only state that has that under pretty decent control is the state of California. Otherwise, people, and it's unfortunate because it gets vandalized. I mean, what was it, a month or two ago, those two lady tourists vandalized a petroglyph somewhere, I think in Utah. So it continues to happen.
About that.
Oh yeah.
Well, and when I was investigating that site, you and I were there, 5 years ago? I'm getting 4 years ago, 5 years ago. It was COVID time for sure. Yeah. So when I was doing the research, there was a kid that went up there with the spray can and vandalized those petroglyphs, and he went to prison. He got arrested. I think he got like five years or something. And that was one of the calls to arms that everybody had said, look, anybody can go in there. it's just wide open. There's no security. There's no, there's no fencing. It's just wide open, and anybody can go in and do that. And we were running on the honor system for a long time, but something needs to be done. This needs to be a protected site, and nobody did anything. It's wide open. And if I remember right, we were there for a sky watch. I remember that. And then somebody goes, "Hey, man, you remember they were yelling from the dark? There's petroglyphs back here." Remember that? And then we stopped the sky watch, man. And we just walked back, and wow, that was just so much fun. Here's the other thing. Are there, when you looked at the petroglyphs at Skinwalker Ranch, are you able to tie them in culturally to a time period? Can you get ages out of it? How do you go about that?
Sure. So there's an upside down Freemason symbol on the ridge of the compass and square, and we can tie that in more than likely to the Buffalo Soldiers that were there at the in the late 1800s, early 1900s. But I believe, because of the way it was positioned, that it's pointing towards the ancient indigenous stone circle that's just to the northeast of it. And then the other ones around the ranch are Fremont-style petroglyphs. They're trapezoidal anthropomorphic features, but what's really, really interesting is they're polydactyly, so they have more than 5 digits on their hands, and they appear to be headhunters, which again goes with these people of great stature, this culture that was there. A lot of people know them as the Site Ka, which now they're called the red-headed cannibal giants. You think of Lovelock Cave in Nevada when you hear that, but they were all the way to northeast Utah. And there's that in and of itself is of great interest to me, because I think it was last year they found a very large femur while they were putting in new cables through the Mesa. And a sheriff's deputy that was working security took a photo and was able to give that to me before those bones were whisked away to the University of Utah. And that femur bone, I was able to identify the length of it using AI, and it comes back representing an individual that was at least 6'8" tall to 7'4". So that's super interesting when you consider back then that the standard male individual was 5'3" to 5'5". So that difference in height, boy, those people would absolutely be considered a giant.
Okay, here's the $1 million question, and then we'll pick up when we come back. What do you think's under the Mesa? I mean, let your imagination go. I know you think about it all the time. What's your take?
So what if I've told you I've been in cave systems inside the Mesa?
Which cave systems? I know we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
In season 2, they stopped short when they were going into that one crevice, and it looked like, are you talking about in that area?
There are cavern systems and voids everywhere in that Mesa. And it's interesting because there is a lot of running water that's traveling through that system. And it makes me wonder if there was a lot of ancient mining going on. And for what type of mineral or metal, I don't know. But when you look at the Mesa from, if you stand on the south end and look towards it, it almost looks like there's parts that have been pushed back into place, as if they were possibly like strip mining, or it was a large operation. So were they trying to pull something out of it, or was it mineral metal? I don't know. There's gilsonite all over the area. That in and of itself is an insane hydrocarbon. So that's my take on it, is you were actually able to enter in and out more so than you can today. There's just a lot of collapsed areas. There is a great cave entrance. Unfortunately, it's on the Ute Reservation, and they don't allow access to it. So,
How far did you get in?
oh, you can go. I mean, see, I don't get claustrophobic. I can go for a long time pushing with my stomach and my feet. So
Mm-mm.
I've gone
No,
about.
no, 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 no,
Yeah,
no.
I've gone about 150 feet in one
Oh, that's
location. Yeah.
insane.
So
Yeah, I'm on the outside FaceTiming with you. I ain't going in. So what do you see, man? What do you see? What do you see? That's I'm on the outside. What did you see? Was it natural?
so I believe it was mostly natural. There were just a lot of collapsed areas, and it started getting pretty shady. But a lot of water. There was a lot more water than I expected in the karst system that I was in.
Keep going, keep going, keep going. Any
Yeah,
petroglyphs? Anything were there visitors before you?
there were no petroglyphs in there. Um,
Any
and
bones? Any evidence?
well, I mean, there were a few bones, but it looked more like, a kill maybe by coyotes or the reservation dogs that are all over the place. Uh, what I do believe, though, is I think it was a lot more open and there was a lot more connectivity even 200 years ago versus what there is today. And I think a lot of it was collapsed on purpose. And that was probably done by the Timpanogos and the Shoshone people that were there before the Ute.
Right, right. In Sinai, east of Cairo, up in the Sinai Desert, on this on this mountain, that's where the turquoise was mined in ancient Egypt. Okay, so any of the turquoise jewelry, but turquoise was like the stuff, right? You had gold, but turquoise was a very, very precious stone. Still is today, but back then it was a really big deal. The mining for the turquoise, which is on one mountain in Sinai, it's not in Egypt. The tunneling for that, tunnels were this big.
Yeah.
So those miners, like you were saying, right? They're in there. You have to be really small, right? The miners were not big dudes, right? They're very small, but they would go in and I don't know how they backed out. I've seen the photographs of these mine tunnels, and totally claustrophobic. It's unbelievable. But they went in, 500 feet in these tunnels, and for a handful of turquoise, and would turn around and come out. So maybe that's what they were doing there with you. They're looking for, small gemstones and
Yeah.
other stuff.
Yeah, very possible. Even the way gilsonite was mined up until recently, it was by hand.
Right.
So you may be exactly right. They may not have had a need or understood how to create these larger tunnel systems. Or there's even a possibility that these were people from the Levant that had come over and were mining like they did in Michigan for copper. There were locations that were known for thousands of years, and it's crazy insane for us to believe that nobody from Europe or the Levant area or Mesopotamia was over here until the 1400s. That's ridiculous. So
Yeah. Well, I think a ship, I think a spacecraft is under the Mesa. That's what I think.
They're starting to drill vertically that last 30 feet, and they said they're hitting some type of metallic object. So maybe that's what they were in there mining for, is trying to get to the ship.
Yeah. But that would kill the series. So you can't find anything just yet. Maybe 3 seasons from now. But yeah, because it's the shape, it's unusual, how it just, sticks out. And, I'm talking about millions of years ago, so what you see on top now, the Mesa, that's natural, right? That's, millions of years. But that's
Sure.
what I think. I think something like that is under there. And that would answer the terahertz issue, the signaling issue, some of the anomalies, and other things. I'm totally spitballing on this, but I just feel like there's something quite extraordinary underneath that mesa.
Yeah. Well, remember too that area was one massive, gigantic lake that encompassed several states about 50, 60 million years ago. So if some massive asteroid or something else, crashed in that time frame, who knows?
I'm watching the chat. I'm going down. I'm going to be in Peru in Ken's going to in 25 days. I can't believe it. The same things that I see here in the States, like Skinwalker Ranch or Grapevine, I see in Peru, and I also see in Egypt, where these ancient cultures were documenting their stuff for us. It's like the first newspapers were being carved, right? The
Right.
first books, the first to tell us a story. And I see it everywhere, and I'm so fascinated with that, where today we like to think that we're really smart. I don't think we're that smart. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, and remember also back then, just like today, what do we make most of our houses and everything out of? It's wood, and unless it falls into peat bog, it's not going to last that long. So we've lost all this ancient history. I mean, a great example is the Shigir totem that they found in Russia. It fell into a peat bog, and it's like, I think it's 20 something feet long or 18 feet. And that just goes to show you that there was a lot more history that's been lost just due to the fact of the material that was used. And luckily, somebody had the idea or concept to at least put something into stone, because they knew that would last longer, or we would have
Do you think?
no information.
Well, and what's the connection besides the geographical component? But what's the tie-in with Blind Frog Ranch and Skinwalker? Do you think it's the same culture? Whatever the foundations are, the source is the same?
Yeah, my personal theory is, when you look at the tributary rivers that run from the top of the Uinta Mountains, then they go into the Green River, which goes where? It's a tributary of the Colorado River that used to go all the way to the Sea of Cortez and then into the Pacific Ocean. What better way to have some type of long distance trade of all types of gold and other metals and minerals than that? And I think that because of the way that the Uinta Mountains are positioned, they're east-west mountains, which are rare, but they're surrounded by north-south mountains that are almost as tall as the Uintas. And what better way to have a location that would protect you from a catastrophic event, say a great deluge, than being in that area? So I believe that there were areas throughout the world when this fourth world ended by a great deluge. We have the Adam Eve over in the Levant area. There were certain areas where people survived and they went underground to do it. And I think an origin point known as Tamwan Chan to the indigenous people of a lot of the Americas was in that northeastern area where Skinwalker and Blind Frog are.
So you've got evidence of giants at Skinwalker. That femur is extraordinary. Anything like that at Blind Frog?
Well, so Blind Frog Ranch just has massive cavern systems running underneath it, all around it. And I personally believe that about a mile north of the ranch is a very sacred location where the people of great stature are buried. The chiefs the high yield chiefs of the Fremont, the Shoshone, the Timpanogos are buried there. And what better place to secure artifacts or treasure? Remember that the Mexica, the Aztec, were Uto-Aztecan. They were more than likely from this area. So if they had something to protect, like a great treasure, Montezuma's treasure from the Spaniards that would have gone after it at all costs, what better place to take it to than a location that is pretty damn secure and will be watched over for generations and generations by ancestors or by your brothers that are somehow related to you. So that's what I think is very important about the Blind Frog Ranch location, is there's something underneath that is that important and that historical and that old.
Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, James Keenan, author, field investigator, with a focus on petroglyphs and ancient history. But man, he dips his toe in the UFO water as well. And Skinwalker Ranch and Blind Frog Ranch. James, stay right there. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now.
Contact in the Desert is back. Come see a legendary lineup of iconic speakers, including George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell, Daniel Sheehan, George Noory, Whitley Strieber, Chris Ramsey, Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell, and many more. Join us in beautiful Indian Wells, California, May 28th through June 1st, as we explore infinite realms. Get your tickets now at contactinthedesert.com.
I'm heading back to the Midwest for the Contact Modalities Expo, May 1st through the 3rd, 2026, in Delavan, Wisconsin, at the Lake Resort. It is beautiful. This is a great conference right in the heart of the Midwest, where I'm from. I'll see you there. Just go to Contact Modalities Expo, that's XPO.com. I will be hosting and presenting once again at Contact in the Desert. That's May 28th through June 1st, 2026, the largest UFO conference in the world. Come and hang out with us June 23rd through July 1st. Tickets and everything else that you need is at contactinthedesert.com. Want to change your life? Want that paradigm shift? Then visit Peru with Brian Forrester and myself for the Inca Celebration of the Sun, June 23rd through July 1st, 2026. A full 10 days of visiting the country, all of the amazing sights, and of course, the celebration of the winter solstice. It's all simple to do. Go to hiddenincatours.com. Come join us for the Monty Python Scotland Tour, August 1st through the 9th, 2026. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event where you get to go to the castles from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. August 1st through the 9th, 2026. Just visit HaleyARamsey.com. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth.
Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com.
All right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, James Keenan. He's here. We're talking about Skinwalker Ranch and Blind Frog Ranch, and of course, all of his research. And his links are below. You can go check out his YouTube channel as well. James, I was just outside checking out the fire. Just crazy, man.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
scary stuff.
Yeah. It is. It's still daylight outside. We'll see how it's glowing at night and what direction the fire is going in. Anyway, all right, back to the show. What did you make of the release from the government on May 8th, their version of the UFO files? What's your take?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a downer for me. I was hoping for more, but there were three interesting points in it. One of them was one of the Apollo missions. I think it was Apollo 17. What they were seeing take place outside. The other two were, and I touched on it a little bit, were two videos that they released showing this UAP in an area that, matches a lot of what I'm seeing in the petroglyph sites. Or what's really interesting is we have all this UAP and USOs occurring at the Channel Islands, California Channel Islands. And yeah, we have two of them are military bases. But what very few people realize is the Santa Cruz Island, which is the largest one, which is right off of Ventura, where I lived for a long time, goes from a meter suddenly down to, it drops almost instantly down to 6,200 feet. And you have these canyons running in between the islands. And it's crazy, because of the fact that what we're seeing now, currently being captured by the military, was captured by the indigenous people hundreds and thousands of years ago.
Did you hear that rumble right now? Did that come from you?
No.
I'm asking the audience right now. I heard it in my headphones, but it wasn't from in here. That was wild. It didn't come from you. You didn't have a rumble.
No.
Okay. All right, man. Always something. There's just, that's the paranormal world that we live in. When we look at the stuff that the government just put out, and Neil deGrasse Tyson is flipping, he's now apparently a part of the community, which he downplayed forever. And then we have everything else that's going on in science with extra dimensions and the quantum side of things. It's and then throw DMT into the mix, my favorite subject. And that tied into all of the indigenous and ancient cultures. I think we're right on the brink, James, of like a very significant discovery that is real, that is outside of our reality. I think we're right there, man.
I agree 100%. I think, again, that a lot is occurring around us all the time, and we just can't see it, can't hear it. And there are only certain ways with new technology to be able to see what's happening, especially with high-speed cameras being able to capture these fast-moving objects. And then there are many different types of psychedelics, but there are two DMT types, one being more recent, even though, so it's more recent to North America, but in Tiwanaku in Peru, they found it in a bag, the 5-MeO DMT that was 1,000 years old. And that's the God molecule. It does completely opposite of what ayahuasca does. And I used ayahuasca in the early 2000s when I was in South America, and it really opened my eyes to what I had already felt was happening and going on. But the God molecule does the complete opposite. It attaches you to the universe. You don't see anything. You're just a single entity with everything. And from both of these, we can almost match the fact, again, and I touched on it a little bit, the fact that maybe what we are seeing in our mind is some type of download, or was always there, and we just can't access this. And it's got to be tied into this other phenomena occurring. I don't think it's separate. I think they're all somehow tied together. And that means to me that we're not looking at something extraterrestrial from out in space, but that we're looking for something that is more interdimensional from elsewhere. Whatever that means to you, a lot of people have different meaning, but it's from elsewhere that's always here. We just can't access it at any time, only in certain types of ways, one of that being a psychedelic.
How many times have you done ayahuasca?
I did it one time, and
that's enough.
Yeah, it definitely matched a lot of what I had felt was occurring, and it's just an eye opener.
It's so tremendous, and the reason why I'm asking you this so directly, it also ties into your research. So, and what I mean by that is when you have the experience and then you come back into this reality and you're looking at stuff and you're doing your field work, you can see it, right? You have a different point of reference, don't you?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It makes you realize that what we experience, people go, oh, you're just dreaming it, or it's a hallucination. But until you've tried it and you've been wherever this takes you, it's not a dream. It's not a hallucination. It's like the other
it's
side.
not a
It's
hallucination.
elsewhere.
Isn't that a crazy thing to say? People want to take the safe road on this in these discussions. That it's just hallucinations. It's just your imagination. It's just a drug. No, it ain't.
Right.
It is not. It's real. It's I can't even explain it. And when I walk around these ancient structures, and it's my favorite thing to do. Just like you. You know what my favorite thing to do at first when I walk into an ancient site is the smell of stones.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. The smell of rock. It's got a very distinct thing, and you're there. It's got that smell. When it rains and that smell of rain on a sidewalk,
Sure.
that smell, that's what you get. It's that thing. Well, anyway, when I go back to these sites, I've done DMT 3 times. I go to these sites now after doing DMT, and I see it everywhere. I see it everywhere, man. It's so hard to put into words, but unless you've done it, you don't know, do you?
Right. And again, it's not it's not a dream state. It feels like just a different reality that
Yep.
you're exiting what this physical body holds you back from, and you are downloading and uploading information that can only be done in this way. And it's just due to the fact that, our bodies are set up to protect us in this 3D world that we live in. And it has to be very narrow in order to protect us from the things that are coming at us physically. Yeah, we've been set up, to survive. And look at the amount of brain capacity that we use. It's minimal. So what is that for? And then it almost feels like we're on Wi-Fi ourselves, that we patch in to somewhere else. And it always makes me wonder about certain shows, even though they're science fiction, like The Matrix or Battlestar Galactica, things of that nature, that maybe they knew something or came across some type of historical records that have them at an advantage that we don't. And like my books, I wrote fictional books because I was afraid of sharing my personal history and the things that I'd run into in my lifetime, because I would have been fired as a law enforcement officer or an investigator. So I had to hide that. But, one of those stories in my first book was when I was on the ayahuasca, and that central character in that book is really my experience. And, now I can tell that because I'm retired. I don't have to ever testify in court or worry about what talking about something like this would do to that. But I'd say 40 or 50% of that fictional original book is my life, including, what occurred to me when I was a police officer that really shaped me from 1994 to where I am today.
What happened?
We went to a domestic violence call, and I ended up seeing these two-dimensional entities within this faux wood walls of a hallway. And they were yelling and screaming, and everybody in the house heard it. My partner heard it. He was Catholic. He was affected by it quite a bit. It always makes you wonder, he became a minister when he retired from being a police officer, if that was a big part of it. But that event, I still was looking for, there being projection, some type of projectors, something going on. But you're talking about 1994. It didn't have the ability that we have today. And it took me a while to grasp what happened in that house. But then it also made me think about the fact that we've have access to certain technology like this quantum imaging and new type of tech that's able to see the things that are around us. And it kind of sort of matches what had happened to me that night, what this imaging is capable of seeing in the real world, or what we consider the real world may not be the only world here. There may be events or locations on top of what we're currently sitting or talking in right now.
There's a place in Peru, this one of the most beautiful sites I've ever been to. I don't know if you've been there. It's called Naupa Iglesia.
No,
Have you been there?
not. No.
Okay. Iglesia meaning church, right? Obviously, but it's called Naupa, Naupa, Naupa. Anyway, I'm up there with a group of friends and our shaman. The shaman's name is Wilco, and he speaks Quechua, all right, the ancient language of Peru. Beautiful language, by the way, and the Quechua, just amazing people. But anyway, so we're in the cave, and it's in the Sacred Valley. It's in the middle of nowhere, up on top of this mountain. It's a heck of a hike, but when you get there, the megalithic work and how it's carved, it's some of the most beautiful things you'll ever see on planet Earth. It's a crazy cave, but the back half of the cave is stoned off. In ancient times, they built a stone wall and you can't access it, so you can only access the first maybe 50 feet of the cave where the stuff is. Anyway, so we're in there and we're doing the ceremony with Wilco, and kind of a meditation thing. All of our eyes are closed and he's playing a drum and he's singing in Quechua. All right. And that lasted for, I've done it a few times with him there, maybe 10 minutes. All right. At the end of the 10 minutes, now, James, what I'm going to tell you right now sounds crazy as shit. Okay. But it happened. He hits the last drum beat. And as that happens, my eyes are closed. From behind me and from behind the wall, right? It sounded like 2 or 3 little girls, children, laughing loud. And I open my eyes and I turn and look. Obviously, I'm looking at the stone wall. Then somebody else goes, "Did you hear those kids laughing?" I was like, "That was real?" What? What? And everybody there heard it. 20 of us. We're on the top of a mountain in the Andes alone in a cave, and the shaman does this ceremony, and at the end of that, these kids are laughing from behind the wall. Loud too, dude. It was like louder than me. So what do you that's when you go, well, paranormal for sure. It's not normal, but there is something going on, and we have to figure that out. I think we're right on the edge. I know how crazy it is to hear me say something like this. It sounds so made up. I was just so happy to have everybody else hear it and talk about it. Yeah, nuts. What do you make of that, man?
Yeah, it's like I said, I mean, I think we have access at certain points to, I mean, are we going to call it interdimensional or whatever that means to us? It seems to be the easiest way to express that meaning, but it's the elsewhere, the other side. It's something, I believe it's always there. It's just hidden from us. I'm not sure how, but there are ways of accessing, and I think musical instruments is one of those ways. I think it changes the frequency and the wavelength around us, and it accesses other levels of those places that we just can't always get to. And unfortunately, from a very young age, we're taught that we're crazy or it's stupid or it's impossible. And we close off what little ability that we have, even more so from this opportunity to be a part of this greater level of being, whatever it is. And a lot of people go, "Oh man, you're starting to sound woo-woo," or it's that woo-woo thing. But I think it's all tied in together. You can't separate. You can't say, "Oh, I believe in a UAP because it's a physical object, but I don't believe you're crazy." Or I think you're crazy for believing in aliens or this other place, yet I'm religious and I believe in a being that lived 2,000 years ago or so, I think. So you can't have one without the other. I think somehow
James, you are doing the Lord's work by saying these things. And let me tell you why. You cannot dismiss what other people are experiencing and say no, and then believe in the resurrection. You can't have a ghosts aren't real. Oh, okay, but you're going to talk to me about angels and demons,
right?
And the resurrection. All of that's okay, but this other stuff, which is the same exact thing, right?
Exactly.
Oh man, it's I struggle with that, and you can't argue with anybody when they have that foundation, right? You can't reason somebody into ghosts and UFOs. You can't do it if their foundation and how they were raised, it's an impossible thing. And the more that you try to do that, the more cemented their position becomes.
Sure. And when you really dig down into something, there is a scientific explanation to the things that we see. You can look at, people see a lot of these orbs, they have this colored hue around them. And you can talk about electron diffusion regions and how that takes place. And you can even explain with like a tokamak and the torus that would be inside of it, like the powering of a sun by this small nuclear thing. It would be able to create this warped space that you would then be able to project two magnetic forces of opposite polarity, hit each other at such a tremendous rate that they would disconnect and reconnect, which then would create the electron diffusion region, which is a massive plasma event. And then you would be able to get on board that with the proper lattices. There are multiple lattices in physics, and ride it. And that's, I think, what people are seeing. They're seeing orbs. So you can put it into science, you can put it into religion, you can put it into a supernatural event. And a lot of what we're seeing is the same event, just seen through different eyes. And I believe that if we are willing to, you don't have to accept something by what somebody says, but be open to the possibility that science, wasn't what it was 100 years ago. It was magic. And
100%.
maybe the magic is actually more important than the science, or astrology may be more important than the astronomy. And we've just lost that information or the how-to use it.
Isn't it funny that a physicist will say and try to convince you that you can look at something and observe it and change its state, right? You can observe something and change its state, but ghosts aren't real. It's like, what? Wait a minute. The double slit experiment is the best example of that.
Sure.
Or even more fundamental, the Schrodinger's cat, which is a great thought experiment. But now it has turned into a foundational basis of theoretical physics. But ghosts aren't real, right? They don't want to talk about consciousness. But entanglement is a thing, right? It's crazy. Science is more woo than this woo-woo community that you and I hang out in.
Absolutely. It's just another religion. It's another
100%.
belief system.
You know what I wanted to ask you about? Let's circle back to ayahuasca for a second. How did that recipe come about? It's been around for thousands of years, right? With all of the plants and roots and bark and stuff on this planet, including the frogs that they were licking for that 5-MeO DMT that you were talking about, right? How many frogs were licked? How many animals were licked before they figured that out? Or was there something else more esoteric? How do you think that recipe happened?
Yeah, I've given that a lot of thought. Is how the hell did they know to combine, these two ingredients to get past the stomach's digestive system? Because, like you said, especially in the Amazon, there are thousands upon thousands of plants and flowers, and you could say, well, it was over thousands of years. People tried it, they died, they got sick, and it's possible. But I think that information, again, I think we have these downloads. And I think there is information available to us in ways that we don't quite understand. Think about it in a purely religious perspective. I'm not talking, but think about prayer. When people pray, they're asking for something from someone they can't see or some entity they can't see. So why can't that be the same from just thought, the thought of I want to know more. I want to meditate and understand the universe. How can one person say God looks like man when God could very well be the creation or the universe or a planet? It could be a planet that's alive. We don't know the form of it, or it could be everything at one time. And that's where I keep talking about this new quantum imaging and this ability to see everything around us. Maybe it's all taking place all together at every time. And, some people have these slips of time where they're in the past or they're in the future. And it makes you think maybe it's because we're just on top of it and we can actually experience everything at once if we just take ourselves out of the moment and out of this physical carcass that we're stuck in for right now. And I absolutely don't believe that consciousness is stuck in our brain. I think it's elsewhere. And I think it's almost like on a Wi-Fi system, and you have a lot of people with near-death experiences, these NDEs where they go other places. And you have these people, these mediums, and a lot of them are fake. But I've watched these individuals, and those people that I really honestly believe have some type of ability, it's instant. It's not like they're waiting for somebody to come down from the sky or from the heavens. The contact is instant because we're always connected to this ether or this collective. And, look at the OSAP program. It's interesting when you look at what they put in for the United States government as what they were planning on doing in the study at Skinwalker Ranch. There was 11 or 13 different listings as what they wanted to do. And the federal government told them no, I believe it was on 3 topics.
Right.
And Bigelow and his people did the most research on those 3. And I think that the people at the DOD that were the oversight knew that was going to occur, but it was the only way to make the funding available for them. And it's not about the UFOs, that the data they were collecting from MUFON. It's not about physical machines that are coming from, some extraterrestrial origin. It was more about the dream state. It was more about life after death, and it was accessing other locations. They said strange things came out of portals. Well, why can't something else already know how to manipulate that electron energy, that plasma energy that's available? And we just don't quite understand how to do it ourselves. We're not the sharpest tools in the shed when you look at the universe as a whole. So,
yeah, there's so much to that, because if we consider, especially how we do medical research today, right, and chemistry today, right, and science, there has to be first an idea. You have an idea, and then you go and act on that idea. So if we go back 4,000, 5,000 years ago, what was the idea with that original shaman, that thought that he had? What was it? Because what came out of that were a root and some bark, right? Right, two things that had to be brewed a certain way, and the tea or brew, whatever you want to call it, that you're going to drink is made from that. That's a full 3D concept, and then you're going to drink it. So you have to have the idea, I need to get to this other dimension, and we need to create a drink. And we're talking about Stone Age man here, right? Where does this come from? The frogs? How many frogs were brought into the village? Right? And you're licking one after another. Toads. Right? Nope. Bingo. Was it like that? Or was there something else more divine that is involved here? That ayahuasca conundrum, that recipe, and how that came about, you have to have a reason, right? You have to have a reason. Was it an accidental access and they were trying to go back and remember what they did? Right? Oh, okay. What I don't know. But it had to be just those ingredients brewed that way to counteract your digestion in your stomach, to pull out the DMT. Man, I trip on this. It's complex and it's heavy. I don't know how it happened. And the Occam's razor version of that for me, James, Mother Earth, Gaia, somebody gave them the recipe and the reason for it. That's my take.
Sure.
I don't think it's anything else. Yeah. I mean, I just don't see here. I've got a messed up mind. You know who lost in the old days? You know who lost? Thinkers. You can't be in the jungle contemplating physics. You're going to get eaten. Right?
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
You can't be a thinker on the savannah. That lion's going to catch you and your life. No, you're thinking about survival, your family, food, and surviving the night. The guy that's sitting around going, you know what? You guys go. I got this idea. I'm going to work this out.
Sure.
Thinkers had a bad ending and a short life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about how long this planet has been here. And for there not to have been another advanced culture before us that we've just lost that knowledge of, and I think it was back in like 2018 when they came up with the Silurian hypothesis, where they're saying it couldn't happen. But it was because they were looking for the fossil fuels, civilizations that burned fossil fuels. And that was where the hypothesis went wrong, was because why does it have to be exactly like who we are today? Look at the Romans. They were very advanced, but they didn't get to the point where we were before they ended. So why couldn't that have happened in the past? Or why does it have to be a worldwide civilization? It could have been localized. And now who they were, what they were, where they were is underneath the crust and the mantle, because it was hundreds of millions of years ago. And then you're saying, well, Homo sapien couldn't have lived like that long. Well, maybe they're right. Maybe it was a different species. And you can talk about, oh, well, then how did we get here? Well, you can see Neanderthal and Homo sapien and Denisovan and Homo sapien were able to mix. And have offspring. So our timeline, we have this lost timeline, and we've narrowed it down so much because we just don't know how to find out what was back there, and people are afraid. And unfortunately, it comes back a lot to religions that they're just not willing to do that, or back to academia where they don't get the grant money if they go against the paradigm that's here at the time. And that puts us all to a disadvantage because, then we're not willing to look for what is origin, or how does science and the supernatural come together? When is science and magic the same, and when is it different?
It used to be the same thing.
Now, why is it different?
Right. The smart dude in the village was the scientist, right? He was the doctor. He was the mathematician. He was the teacher. He was the mayor, right? He was the doctor, all in one. And those concepts, and when you go back and you look at Hermeticism and the oldest part of science, they were all the same thing, and that helped develop. Isaac Newton was the best example of that. He was a religious scholar, but a brilliant mathematician and a brilliant physicist, and a hermeticist too as well, and an alchemist, right? He was all of those things, and that's what allowed some of those brilliant ideas of his to come out. Now everything is segmented, and you can't cross over one way or the other. I just find that completely frustrating. I simply don't get it. I wanted to mention. Okay, let's go back to. I'm going to have this thought come back to me. At Contact in the Desert, you're going to be speaking there, but are you going to also talk about some of the tools that you use in field investigation and what equipment that you're, when you're out looking at paranormal things or scientific study? Do you have a go bag?
I do. So in the workshop, I'm going to, for the first, in the workshop that I have, I'm going to be going through that. And I'm going to go into very great detail that I haven't before into these connections. But I'm going to definitely show, a lot of the magnetometers, the GPR, and some things that people are like, oh, there's no way that that's real. It can't work. That looks like an electronic dowsing rod. But believe it or not, some of this technology actually does a hell of a job, and some of the most simple tools do a better job than some of the items I have that are $10,000. So it's just a matter of what we're looking for, but yeah, definitely the technology has gotten better, and like I said, it's able to help us see more what's around us.
I think it's very important, and I'll tell you why. That combined with what you had just mentioned, if it goes against the grain, some of these discoveries just get buried, figuratively, literally, and hypothetically. There's a cave.
Absolutely.
There's a cave in Tel Aviv, just north of Tel Aviv, and in this cave, they found a fire pit. Right? They found graves with markers on them. Okay. They dated the bones. They dated the carbon in the fire pit and the stone and wood tools that were in the cave. Dating 450,000 years ago. Now, and this is the University of Tel Aviv, right? And a German archaeological team was part of this discovery. And So they announced it 2 years ago. Probably one of the most significant archaeological discoveries in the history of everything. And it's been buried. There's no talk. Why? It tips over everything. The religious aspects of it, technological aspects of everything, a fire pit, burying the dead with gravestones. That's crazy, right?
Sure.
450,000 years ago. Now, you would think that that would be up there with King Tut's tomb, right? Like, this is a big deal. Nobody's talking about it. One little blip, one press release, the research is ongoing, and that's the end of the story. That's something that nobody on so many different fronts wants to discuss.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at ancient Armenia, which is now Turkey. You have all these Göbeklis, and people go to the sites and they're fascinated by what they see, but nobody's asking the right questions. You know, they're not asking why this area, this location, which has now obviously been dated much older than anywhere else, and the anthropologists and archaeologists are willing to accept it, why they're not branching out more. And you know, I know they know there's other Göbeklis, and they've started excavating other locations, and there's another one that's even older than Göbekli Tepe. But why not move more northward? Let's quit worrying about the politics of who we're going to offend and worry more about humanity, and start looking in these ancient areas of Mount Ararat and going with this ancient history we have from the Mesopotamians, that they created their language and their writing to trade with these ancient people from the north. And very few people know that the Mesopotamians, they weren't our original culture, or so that we believe at this point in time. But
right,
they were trading them to a more advanced culture northward in the Caucasus. And the greatest Bible story in the Old Testament is Noah. And where did Noah supposedly end up? Mount Ararat.
Yep.
Yeah. So why is this? Why are we not, as a human race, pushing to get to this area to find out what's really there? You know, is that an origin site for one of the worlds in this planet that have ended, a new start? You know, the Great Deluge ended the fourth world, and we're now in the fifth world. It blows my mind at how slow we move. We're all super interested when it comes from the United States government, this data and this information, and it's fantastic that they're willing to release some of it. But there's other data and information that's far more important, and that fits right in with what we're waiting to hear. You know, disclosure comes in more ways than one. Disclosure doesn't have to be about just UAP and USO. Disclosure is about a loss of who we are, where we came from. Is origin here or is origin elsewhere? Are there other races and species somewhere on this planet, or are they from elsewhere? Right. And is there just other places on top of where we are now? So,
yeah, but there's a big problem with everything that you just mentioned. First off, Turkey is modern. Turkey's only 600 years old. The Armenian highlands, the original kingdom, that went from sea to sea. Right now, Armenia is this big and landlocked, right? But all of that was the Armenian highlands, where Göbekli Tepe is and Karahan Tepe and all. There is in Armenia, on this mountaintop, one of the most significant sites, I think is more significant than Göbekli Tepe. It's called Karahunj.
Yep.
Karahunj is a Stonehenge, thousands of years older than Stonehenge. But two things are significant about that site. Well, three. One, nobody talks about it. Okay, that's the first thing, and that's a travesty. It should be illegal. It's a crime. It's criminal. Second point, each one of the stones has a hole in it that lines up with the stone across, and you look through and you're looking at the stars and you're lining up astronomical points. That's crazy. The third thing that is totally nuts about Carahunge is there is a wall behind it, and on that wall are bronze and copper faces. Okay. 5,000 years before the Bronze Age. Right? It's like it's right there. Why isn't this the most significant thing on planet Earth? Even more so than Göbekli Tepe.
Sure.
And it's politics, and it's Armenia, right? Yeah. It's there is one other point. I love the Armenian people. In Venice, Italy, God, I sound like I know what I'm talking about, but just check this out. There's a monastery, Christian monastery in Venice, Italy. And it's the oldest one in Venice, and it's Armenian. At that monastery, they were gifted a bronze dagger from Armenia. It's on display. It's that long. It's a dagger. It's beautiful too. Hilt, the whole thing, right? There it is. It's 9,000 years old.
Wow.
Right? Why aren't we talking about that? You know, and it's like Armenia is off limits. I don't get it. I truly don't get it. There's so much history there. All of the languages on this planet, I don't care if it's Chinese or the King's English, is all influenced by the Armenian alphabet and Armenian language. It's crazy, but nobody wants to talk about that. You know, how far did the Armenians travel? They went from the Armenian highlands to Spain and named cities in Spain, in Armenian, like 9,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? But nobody wants to talk about that.
Well,
The etymology of our languages all trace back. It's like, was Armenia first, or was it Mesopotamia? Was it Egypt, or was it Armenia? I don't know. And you bring up the Denisovans, you know, and all the way from Siberia. Could that be the civilization that you're referring to? I think there's a strong possibility for that.
yeah, and you know, when you look at origin for Armenia, they talk about two giants fighting, and that hike destroyed Baal. And one of my what I've been working on for well over a decade is following these people of great stature out of the Caucasus Mountains all the way westward to the Levant, then to Malta, Sardinia, to North Africa, and then across to Central America, South America, North America. And what a lot of people don't realize is when you look at the Old Testament and it talks about Adam and Eve, it never says how tall or how big Adam is. But if this individual, whoever he was, you can go back into other cultures that seem to have the same character. But when you look at it from the Bible as a historical data, the Raphaim and the Amim, who were these people of great stature that Moses and the Israelites had to fight and destroy, all came from Adam. So are we looking at either a different species and race, or were we larger individuals at a different time point. And then you can even bring the Nephilim in if you want to follow these stories. You have the Nephilim, then the Anakim, not the Anunnaki. A lot of people confuse that. It's the Anakim. And then the Anakim are the Rephaim and the Amim. But you can follow it all the way here to the Americas, and you have the Siteka, the Starnake, the Kinametsen giants, the Uemas, and they all created these larger than life structures like the Pyramid of Cholula, which by volume is the largest pyramid in the world, right outside of past Mexico City in Puebla, was supposedly created by one of 7 brothers who were these Kinametsen giants. And you look at the oldest pyramids in Egypt, and what were they? They were actually the step pyramids, like at Djoser and places like that. And those look like the same pyramids that are found in Asia and Mesoamerica. And it makes you have to wonder, what is origin, and where are we from? When are we from? And there is no way on this planet that we started here after the Ice Age during the Holocene period.
Right.
That's just BS.
Right.
Everybody talks about that we're in the 5th world, and they say the first world was giants that were devoured by jaguars, whatever the hell that means. And the second world was destroyed by wind. The third world was a rain of fire. The fourth world was a great deluge, and here we are. So catastrophic events have come and gone, and we barely survived them. Other species just were SOL. They didn't make it. And here we are.
And thank you, James. Just thank you. Thank you for being a friend, but just thank you for all of your hard work and your research. And it's so important to not have boundaries, not to have blinders on. Just go and look at what the evidence is, and then try to figure something out. And that's exactly what you do. So I just want to thank you for that. Because I'm going to run out of time with what I want to say right now. When you go to every culture on this planet made pyramids, allegedly without communication with each other. How is it that form was so fundamental to the foundations of those cultures that they all saw and built the same thing? I have a hard time with that. I really struggle with that. There must have been some universal teacher. Okay. But Tiwanaku in Peru, which is right next to Pumapunku, and we could spend a whole show talking about Pumapunku. You go across the street, they touch, right? Allegedly, they don't have anything to do with each other. That's what the Bolivians will tell you, and the archaeologists in both countries say that the two cultures are different. No, they're literally on the same piece of land. You go across the street to Tiwanaku, and you walk up, and as you walk into it, it's just an amazing complex. But it's a pyramid, and it's a giant pyramid. Now, it's worn down now. It's so old, but the base is still there. And you can go up onto the top, and you can... It's huge. I mean, I would say that rivals close. It's not as big as the Great Pyramid, but it's pretty big. But the people there don't know who built it. The ancient cultures, they will tell you, well, no, we got here. It was already here. It's the same thing with Pumapunku. What does that tell you? There was something, as you say, that was here before, and we just don't know who or what they were.
No, that's exactly what it is.
It drives me. I'm trying to get to these answers. Just like what you were just saying, you can see it, but nobody knows.
Right.
It's like Ollantay Tambo, Sacsayhuaman, right? The biggest friggin' boulders on the planet, bigger than a house, lined thousands of them, building this wall, and nobody knows anything. It's crazy, isn't it? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Nobody, and it's beautiful, but nobody knows.
Yeah, and we're not questioning it enough.
You know, you step back and you can see that these things fit. Polygonal is too light of a term, right? So you see, and how everything, but you're looking up 15, 20 feet at these stones and and nobody has an answer, but you can see it. You can look at it. It's so impressive. And then your mind just goes, your imagination goes, how was this done? Well, I don't know, but they had it figured out. Maybe it was at ayahuasca. That's what it was.
There it is.
There it is.
You solved it.
James, I'm going to see you in a week, my friend. I can't wait. Yeah, let's break bread. Let's have fun and safe travels out here to California. Of course, I'm talking about Contact in the Desert. James is going to be running around. All your favorite speakers and researchers and authors are there. Come and hang out with us at Contact in the Desert. Come and find me, and I'll introduce you to James. James, safe travels, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jimmy, for having me.
You're the best. James Keenan, everybody. See him next week right here in Southern California in Palm Springs at Contact in the Desert. And this wraps another amazing week here on Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll see everybody back here on Monday. I've got a short week next week, so it'll be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're doing shows. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'm out at Contact in the Desert. So everybody have a great weekend. I'll see you right back here on Monday. But for now, all I've got, check it, James. Go back, Lee Tappy.
Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go back, Lee Tappy.